guys? It's 10 p.m. I'm in San Diego. I literally just landed from Mexico City. My eyes are tired. I just finished presenting for 16 hours total. 8 hours each day. Actually, more than that. Yeah, about 16 hours. But man, I've had this on my mind for a while. And this post and, this podcast can be a little bit different. Like, it's not something I've really done in the past, like talk about my personal life, talk about business, those things. So yeah, this is deeply personal. So, hope you guys like it. So the reason why I wanted to talk about all this stuff today is that we just hit 200 speed labs, and I wanted to get out there and just say this for the record, like how it started and where it started, because it's a little bit embarrassing. It's a little bit funny if you think about it, and just how it scaled, because it's not like a typical story of everything just worked out from the beginning. So yeah, I appreciate you guys listening. So honestly, we never intended on building something called Speed Labs. We intended on building a software product that connected to a piece of hardware and, try to scale it that way. And, honestly, might have been a great idea, but COVID hit and a lot of things shifted. I know COVID also represented, me becoming a father also. And from a time perspective, I didn't want to be outside coaching every single day. I didn't want to be out there. I did want to coach. I'm saying I didn't want to spend all my time coaching, right? I wanted to be present. I wanted to be with my family. And I was thinking about different ways we could scale products, and, software and hardware was a great way to do it. But I just felt like there wasn't a personal touch to it. There wasn't it kind of removed the need to have coaches. Right. And I was thinking about a product. We were like, dude, we need to develop something that helps coaches and helps the athletes. Just trying to figure out ways I could do that. And at the same time, during this whole COVID mess, we were also helping one of my best friends, Devin, build this private school called Togethership. And basically Togethership was a middle school where athletes would come and train as athletes and go to school and finish their 7th and 8th grade, open to boys and girls. And it was a great idea. So we're helping out. My uncle is literally building out classrooms during winter break, and we're in there. It's midnight. And I was like, yo, Unc, what do you think about building this room? It's a room downstairs, into a lab. And we could put a treadmill in there. We could put video in there. We could put all my force plates and all these other things in there. And we could bring athletes through, and we could test them and then give them a report and then tell them what they need. And then, they can keep training. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's move some stuff around. So it was midnight in the middle of A4 volleyball, where the school was basically built into classrooms and things like that. And we're building out our first speed lab. And by the end of the day, the next day, it was done. We just put a little green turf in there, a desk. We put a shred mill in there. Shout out Tony Villani. A couple of tripods, and cool, let's promote it. And I remember telling my business partner, Todd, who's our first investor, and he always believed in the projects, but he was like, dude, I don't know. He's like, all right, well, I want to respect your idea. So why don't you try to get some athletes through and just let me know how it works? I was like, cool. And at the same time, Tyler Gaffney, who played in the NFL, just retired. And he was like, okay, I'm going to work with you. We're going to figure out how to get some athletes in. So the process was, I don't even know how we put it out. It was probably on Instagram. We were like, yo, we have a speed lab, and if you want to come get tested, then hit us up. So we get our first email within 24 hours, and it was from Mario Thompson, who was a principal at an elementary school. And he's like, hey, I have 2 girls, 13 and 14. Their names are Alyssa and Giselle Thompson, and we'd like to come to the speed lab. I was like, oh shoot, we got our first client. So Tyler's like, yo, I'd really love you to be there, but if you can't make it, Dylan can come. I was like, all right, just send Dylan. So Alyssa and Giselle, I don't know if you're listening and you watch TV and watch sports, you've heard these names before. Alyssa's up for Player of the Year worldwide for soccer. She's one of the best players in the world, one of the most dangerous strikers in the world. And Giselle, her sister, just made the national team, women's national team at 18. And they're both professionals by 18 years old, signed to Nike. But at the time, they were young. Like, I think Alyssa just started freshman year of high school. Giselle was like 7th or 8th grade, and, young. And, they went through the testing, and the dad got the data and was like, okay, this is great. Now what? And Dylan's like, okay, well, I'll train you. And it was literally our first speed lab, right? So like our first, I don't know how, I don't even know if we charged them, to be honest. Like, it was nothing negligible. But I was like, dude, I think this could be something. Like, I see some value. And we started to kind of define like what a speed lab was meant to be. So it wasn't just a gym. It wasn't just a weight room. It wasn't just a field. It wasn't just testing. It was like a place where athletes can get tested and then receive like, I don't know, like a SWOT analysis of their speed. So strengths, weaknesses, opposition, threats, whatever. But in speed terms, it was like we gave them like a structural profile, a physical profile, and then a technical profile. And we understood how they moved, right? And then we were working to train specifically around those areas. Now, if you look at our first speed lab test, it was like 16 tests deep. It was like, I have a video somewhere, I think I've posted it, but it was like a drop jump, CMJ, single leg CMJ, active straight leg raise, Jordan test. It was like all these things, mobility test, speed test, strength test. And like, to be honest, like we still do a lot of those tests now. But it was way too complex and it wasn't scalable. And it took a lot of data, and, it was cool, but it was definitely too much. So we were like prototyping different combinations of tests and see what worked and see what stuck. How long was our process? I think Alyssa and Giselle went like an hour and a half, and like they were still like not even done before we like stopped. Like, hey, come back for day 2 to get the rest of the stuff. So it was like a really bad product if you think about it from that standpoint. But really, like, I knew, okay, we have to productize what we're doing a little bit, and we want to make sure that the product is easy enough for coaches to think it's valuable, and also easy enough for athletes to think it's valuable. So Tyler Gaffney, coming out of the NFL, and Drew, who's our operations guy, and Todd and I, who's my first investor, were like, well, what's the one thing that everybody can kind of like hang their hat on is like, we develop, faster athletes or stronger athletes. I was like, honestly, it's just speed. So how fast you are. Like, that's the main outcome of all this. Like, we want to know how fast you are. And the number one question I get from parents at this time in my life is like, how fast is my kid compared to other kids? And everybody's comparing 40-yard dashes. Everyone's comparing mile times. Everyone's comparing 100-meter dashes, like things that just don't have like true scale and relevance to each other. Plus, we know like the 40-yard dashes aren't timed very well. The 100-meter sprints are like only for the kids who run track. The 60s are only for the kids that run 60s. So I'm like, yo, let's just standardize like how fast people are. Let's start there. And let's just build a massive database, starting with what we have, which was like, I don't know, 200 athletes. And let's build that as big as possible so we can get context on how fast athletes actually are relative to their peers. And then what would be cool is if we like gamified it a little bit, and like once we got enough people, we could say, this is how fast you are in your state. And Tyler was like, dude, what about if you could see how fast you are in your city? And then Drew was like, well, what if you could see how fast you are compared to boys versus girls versus age groups, and be able to filter through all those different levels? And I was like, yo, I think that's it. Like, I think we need to start there, where we're just going to quantify how fast people are in a measure, in a metric that makes sense, which is miles per hour. So that's where we started. To give context to the end of this story, we have 600,000 tests now on miles per hour. So it's a lot. It's grown. But at the time, we were like, okay, let's figure out how we can get as many max speed tests as possible. and make sure we have their height, their weight, their age, their city, their sport, their position, all these different, metadata type things. And that became the vision. So, obviously around that, me, Dylan, and Cece are like training athletes consistently on high school teams. I was working with a college team, pro teams, and we're just taking all this data, how fast people are, and we're putting it into these spreadsheets, and we're building out all these things, and we're consistently working on the test, like the initial test as well. Like, all right, like basically they would come in and we had a big Google sheet and we're just typing things into this Google sheet. Now, eventually the Google sheet got to the point where it was like, okay, there's like thousands of lines of data in this Google sheet. And if you add another one, it's just going to explode. And me and Cece would literally like be like refreshing the page and it would be buffering. And we're like, we don't know if the data went in. And we get to the point where we're like talking to Todd and Drew and Tyler. And we're like, dude, we have to figure out a way to like turn this into like a real software. And at the time we probably had like, I don't know, 2 or 3 speed labs, like not a lot, which was amazing to me at the time, like that multiple people wanted to do something like this. And yeah, so we set out to go find a software partner to really help us build it into like an actual software piece. And that's kind of how universal speed rating came about. And I remember like as we grew and we got some software rolling, we got an MVP, which is like the minimum viable product we can get for software. And, we get to 10 labs. I'm like, oh, okay, that's crazy. We got 10 people that want to do this. And then we got to 20. I'm like, okay, 20 is like 10 more than I thought was actually in the market for something like this. And then we got to 50. And when we got to 50, I started to think like, man, like, is this valuable? Like, we're just collecting a few metrics and a few things. And what's the actual value for the coach? Like we understand that the athlete value where you can see where you rank and see how you stack up against your peers. But like for a coach, like the actual value is that you grow your business. And Drew like really started to think about this, and Todd really started to think about this, where it was like, okay, well, if there's not a lot of coaches in the market for our product, that means you have to develop coaches for this product, or you have to go find a way to help coaches that are already in this. So there's 2 levels of it. Like you're developing coaches into the customer that you want. And the second level is that a lot of these coaches already exist, but it's not valuable enough for them to participate in it. And, we got 50 of our best friends to join Speed Lab, pretty much our homies, but that doesn't represent it as a actual like business opportunity, like a massive business opportunity. So Todd was like, you need to do more education. And then I was like, cool. So Drew helped me build courses. And basically, I mean, these courses were tough, man. Like I was literally locking myself into a room for days, just writing out an outline, and then weeks writing out the plan of how I'm going to, teach each module. And like it wasn't something that was natural to me. Like I was naturally, as a kid, I was more introverted, like didn't like talking in front of people. I hated class presentations. I hated speaking in front of people. And I was like, man, I got to figure out how to overcome this. And I remember being in my room at night, just writing and trying to make it perfect and trying to make it simple and trying to make it make sense. And, it took me months. The first course I did, took me months, and it was short. Like Speed Pillars was extremely short, and I did all this prep. And then the day that I shot Speed Pillars was literally a day and a half, and that was it. And I was like, oh my God, that went by so fast. So we're like, let's do another one. So Art of Acceleration came right after that. And again, I spent hours and hours, weeks building. And then our videographer, Katie DeFeo, shows up and we shoot it in like 3 days. I'm like, oh my God. So we do another one, right? So I knew that education was important, especially around something like speed that was relatively new in the industry in terms of like productizing it into a business. But yeah, like we just went out from that standpoint. Now, the second thing that Drew and Todd we're really big on was like, this needs to have a level of like business structure to it. Like, meaning like if we're giving this as a package to a coach and they're going to add Speed Lab to their business, then we should probably have a level of like business systems with it. And that could be marketing, that could be onboarding, that could be developing your coaches. Like, we need to start educating that. So Drew made that an entire pillar of Speak Labs, is like the business side of it. Like, what does that look like to become a Speak Lab from a systems and operational standpoint? And Drew is one of the best operational minds I've ever been around. Like, he can think about all the possible outcomes of things and then draw a line to the connections and how they work and figure out who needs to do what. Like, that's just how his brain works. And Drew was able to really draw up that into a pillar. So now we have analytics, we have education, and then we have business. And 50 to 100 happened relatively quickly, after that. And our first Speed Summit, we were announcing like, yo, we have 100 Speed Labs. And I was like, okay, now we're 90 more Speed Labs than I ever imagined. Now I thought it was going to be like 10 of my friends doing this and we just like grow it. But now we're at 100. And I remember looking out into the crowd when I was at the Speed Labs Summit, and there's 100 people there. And I was like, how is this possible? And I kept thinking about, the main thing that came to mind wasn't how great software was, because at the time it was okay. It's a lot better now. I thought about our offering. It was okay. Education, it's good, but there's tons of education out there. It wasn't any of those things by itself. It was all those things together along with community. And I think community was the thing that took us from 100 to 200. And it was going deeper with that community. And to be honest, like, while building this, it was very hard for me, from a personality standpoint, from an energy standpoint. Like, it was something that I felt like I was working on 24/7. I was sleeping and dreaming about. Like, I know Drew was doing the same. I know Todd was doing the same. Like, I know Cece and Dylan and all these people were doing the same. Like, it was so uncomfortable and so difficult. And I always was wondering, like, did we reach the entire market already? Are we tapped out? Is there any more people out there that would be interested in this? And sometimes sales were really slow and really difficult, and it got really boring and really monotonous. And I felt like I had no time because I was constantly presenting to a screen. I was constantly doing education. I was constantly traveling. I was constantly coaching. I was like burnt out. I was like, I can't do all these things. And early on, like, putting myself out there was actually really embarrassing for me. I'm a coach, meaning like I can talk to people and get out in front of people. But like, I wasn't like a content creator. And what I did was I actually gave my passwords to like the people that were doing the content, like Katie DeFeo and Drew. And like, hey, here's my password. So I would wake up and I'll look on my story and I'll see a bunch of stuff that I didn't post, and I'll look on my feed and a bunch of stuff I didn't post, but they were posting non-stop on everything: LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm watching it grow. And, I felt the need I was like, I need to respond to everyone, because I remember getting ignored when I was hitting up businesses or teams or athletes and things that I was trying to work with. And I remember how that felt. So I'm like, I'm trying to respond to everybody. And it's overwhelming. And there's content everywhere. And I'm like, some of this content I don't even like. Like, I remember there was a drill that was posted, and I was like, I only did that drill to show you what not to do. And it was posted as like, do this drill. And then I remember another time we had a content creator that was posting A series like every day. And I was like, I hate the A series. Stop posting the A series. And it was like always A march and switches and things. I'm like, don't post it anymore. But it was, I was burning out, man. I was tired, and I didn't have time for myself. Didn't have time for family. Contrary to like what people think, is when you run a startup business, like, money was really tight too, like very tight. I was making significantly more money before than in the beginning parts of the business. It was so, because every resource had to go towards people or software, other things. And you realize like pretty quickly, like you were the last priority as the founder and owner of the business. Like it's not something you can just like pull money from and go buy a house or a car. At the time, it was like, it was hustle and grind, you know? And there was a point where I remember Todd came to me. He was like, yo, like if we don't turn this business around and start getting higher revenues, like, you know, this is going to be over. And I was paranoid. And luckily at the time, like a few of my NFL guys became investors, like Tony Jefferson, River Craycraft, Alex Bachman. You know, they were like, dude, we want to invest in this thing and we believe in it. And I couldn't believe it because I'm like, obviously I knew my value as a coach and what I did with them, but they believed in the business. Like their financial guy signed off on this investment. Like, let's make it happen. So, you know, around this time I started to realize like my strengths were definitely like the vision, but also coaching, relationships. But my weak spot was clearly operations and systems. And Drew had that skill set. And me, Cece, and Dylan, we can coach. We're not really that good at anything else. Like, so he was able to create systems and processes and checklists and all those things. Like, how do we build this into an actual product? So, long story short, the shift happened when I realized that I'm not good at all the things that we need to grow. And we need to find the people that can help us grow. And I realized what I was good at was doing the community piece. And I needed to do more community piece. I need to talk more to people. I need to get out there more. And, you know, since I had this revolution, I've done 12 speaking engagements a year. I've done more courses. I've tried to get out there more. Like it's been a focus of mine to do more and to be out there more. And now it's like, man, I kind of feel like how I felt in the beginning, where I was like, wow, I was so excited about working on this every single day. From 0 to 100, I was miserable every single day. From 100 to 150, I was burnt out. And from 150 to 200, I am in love with the process. Like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I'm very clear on the outcomes that I want. I'm very clear on the people I want to work with. And I'm getting more clear on who I am, like not just like in business, but like as a father and as a husband. And I think all these things work together. Like you can't be one way in business and one way at home. Like you can, but that's fatiguing. That's difficult. I've really thought about like, how do I sync these things together? Like, how do I bring my family with me? How do I take them when I go places? How do I bring them and have an experience with them so they grow up in the business as well? It's theirs. They understand it. And I've really thought about this over time. Like, I don't want to create a separate business life from my personal life. And I know like that might sound crazy. I think a lot of people would say like it is good to separate, but I'm living literally my dream, like coming from not being able to walk and run to running Division I to getting into the Olympic program as a coach to now helping people for a living. I mean, that's literally what I get to do every day. So I'm just incredibly grateful, you know, especially Drew and Todd, Cece and Dylan, Tyler Gaffney, our first client to listen, Giselle from Mario, you know, the whole USR team, like the people that have come in the past like 4 years. It's just like a superstar team from Olivia and Dylan and Luke. Just their abilities to turn like a vision into something concrete is incredible. Like just not just like I have abstract ideas. Not all of them are good ideas, but they have no problem telling me that's not a good idea. that's not going to work. And they just work passionately on this nonstop. And yeah, I'm grateful, you know, and literally coming off of a flight thinking about this, I'm like, I'm coming in the podcast studio at 10:20 at night, even though I haven't slept and even though I'm tired, like, man, I got to get this off because, man, I'm hoping this helps somebody, because the whole way is just, I got, you know, if I were to go back and start, like, I think the way that I would think about this is that you don't have to have the right idea first. You just have to start something, and you just have to start building it. And as you go, you, different steps will reveal themselves as you go, and you'll get better at it. And it'll just, like, every failure is just going to lead to another level that you know, unlocked. So when we failed 60, 70 times building the first, like, score in the algorithm, it was like so painfully obvious that the answer was so simple, yet we were avoiding it because we were like, it can't be that simple. We have to make it complex. We have to go this deep and these many layers. And we spent, I don't even want to say it on here, but a lot of money going in the wrong direction, like a significant sum of money going in the wrong direction, trying to make things too complex. And it didn't hit until we simplified it. Okay. A system has to have a common purpose, component parts that all work together. So we had to find our system, right? It's analytics, right? That's the main thing, is where do you stack up? It's education. So we want to help coaches, right? And then we have the business element tied into it. And, you know, we know that the common relationship between all this is community, and it's developing relationships that are authentic and really are based around helping each other. So appreciate you guys listening to this one. A little bit shorter this week, but man, this is probably the one that is the most emotionally driven from me. So thank you guys. I'll see you guys next week.